Hi everybody, it's Nancy Kaufman from Kaufman Children's Center, and I am speaking from my home during our COVID-19 quarantine time. We have established the Kaufman Children's Center Small Talks, the KCC Small Talks, and my topic today is going to be about using single words and phrases at home in everyday activities. So many of you have children who are minimally vocal. They may only be able to produce some approximations of single words. We can use those single words especially as requests or comments. So many of the children may still resort to pointing, gesturing, non-speech vocalizations, and as a parent, you probably know what they're trying to convey. Once we know what they're trying to convey from their non-verbal or non-vocal attempts, we can then help them to use single words as a request. So let's say that the child is pointing outside, and you know that they want to go outside and maybe they can't open the door. We want to explain to them that we know what they're trying to convey by saying, "Oh, you want to go outside." We don't always have to ask a question because we already know the answer to it. And then once we make that statement, we can help the child to say out if they're at a single word level. Let's say that they are pointing to a shelf for their favorite toy. Once we know the name of the toy, we're going to help them to say the name of the toy to make the request to gain access to the toy. Maybe they're running over to the trampoline and you know that they want to jump. Let's help them to say jump in order to have the opportunity to jump. So there are many things in their natural environment that they're going to need to ask for. We want to create situations where they need to ask for things rather than to gain access to them on their own all the time. So putting things up high on shelves for them to have to make those requests out of reach, only certain times of the day where that they're able to have them, and especially, of course, meal times when they can ask for their favorite foods. We want to think about their favorite foods, toys, activities that they love, movie characters that they love, people in their homes, people in their lives, pets, places. Take a look at those words and see if we can help the children not only to name those items, but then to say the name of those items in order to achieve those items. For phrases, we want to keep words constant. So in the KSLP methods, they're called pivot phrases. Pivot phrases mean that one word or a few words remain constant, where the child only has to then make a change on the last word of the sentence, or maybe the first word as the subject of the sentence or phrase. So for example, a pivot phrase would be "I want," and then the child only has to then come up with the last word as the novel creative word to push in. We don't want to do too much on "I want" phrasing, because then the children just think that everything they say should have that "I want" attached to it. So instead of just "I want," how about a phrase like "I want to"? And then they can push in a verb. I want to swing, I want to ride, I want to eat. How about "let me" as a pivot phrase? "Let me" stays constant and they only have to push in one single word. We can talk about pivot phrases such as put on, take off, put away, put in, take out. And then think about some everyday activities that they could use those phrases and really practice them. For example, having a filled toy box and then talking about take out and then pushing in that third novel word. Those words don't have to be perfectly articulated, especially if the child is not stimulable for many of the vowels, consonants, or syllables within words that are important for them. They are able to make an approximation, and figuring out what that approximation should be is pretty technical and will take some advice from your speech and language pathologist. So then they have the toy box, and each time they're taking out a toy, they're going to say take out, and then the name of the toy. We don't have to worry about articles right now, especially for children who struggle to speak. We don't want to put too many words in that phrase in terms of saying take out the or take out a. So don't worry about the articles if that's making the phrase too long for them to remember. The whole point of pivot phrases is that they stay constant, and then they are not so difficult to remember. Another way to use the take out is when you've gone grocery shopping and the children can take out each item out of the grocery bag. They can also use the pivot phrase put away for each item. And you might want to even talk about a prepositional phrase, like hiding things and telling them where to put them. And then once they find them, where did they find them? Under, that's where we do have either a 2-word under table or a 3-word to put in that article under the table. So we want to think about things that stay constant. Some ideas would be, again, a pivot word such as my, and then just adding a word, my toy, my nose, my eyes. Open for something to open, open box, open eyes, open mouth, open toy. We can think about just the word on something, or the put on pivot phrase when they're getting dressed in the morning. So what should we do? Put on shoes. We can do that for all of the different articles of clothing. And then when it's time to go to bed, we can get a take off. When it's time to put away things, we can get a put away plus the items. We're going to get lots of practice on using those pivot phrases. Just to reiterate, whenever we can anticipate what the child is trying to convey, help them to make a request with either a single word and then follow through on giving them the item or giving them access to the activity. Or we can talk about pivot phrases, thinking of a phrase that stays constant and getting lots of practice on that particular phrase at home in their natural environment with you. You can do things through play as well. Let's say that you're playing a game and thinking about just saying a phrase like my turn or your turn, and just those 2 phrases during that toy activity. So thinking about pivot phrases is something that we can do daily. We can make it fun, and we can get lots of practice for children who struggle to speak. Bye-bye.